I just wanted to post a short duration reaction to the video title for HW News at Gamer Nexus. Um, I don't know, maybe we can get to the actual video segment that I was reacting to. I haven't even watched it yet, to be honest, but let's see if he time stamped it, you know. Yeah, no. Oh, okay, yeah, he did. AI. RAM demand hits the PlayStation 6. So, AI is causing a delay in RAM, random access memory, by the way, not, Dodge RAM or anything else. I'm referring to computer memory here. Specifically, so context is important with people. I've learned, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, they might not know what you're talking about if you don't specify the context. But yeah, so RAM shortages are becoming a thing. Apparently, it's causing a delay in the PlayStation 6. But of course, my own genuine reaction to that is I bought this stupid thing, and I'm kicking myself for the decision. I've got one game that is of any interest, and I can play it on the PC anyways, and did, which is Metaphor Refantizo. Love the game, by the way. Very big fan of it. It probably sold me on Atlas at this point. I was a big Square Enix fanboy who is a big fan of Studio Asano and their work. I have been very forthcoming with my own audience about that, despite my dislike of Final Fantasy 15 and everything as a project. I've come straight out and said it. I'm like an RPG enthusiast. I like these turn-based games that are unpopular with a lot of people who don't like them and have a different taste in games. I mean, that's me. That's the thing I do. One of the things that I really find refreshing about it is that there's usually a good story, although I've become so addicted to turn-based mechanics that, like, I'm playing Etrian Odyssey, the first original. At this point, I'm at the final sixth stratum. I'm working on retiring my characters and everything to make them more powerful and everything, in order to go and do the rest of the bonus content that's available in the remaster on the Switch and everything. And I guess because I grew up playing Dragon Warrior 3 and everything, I mean, I think 3 and 4 were probably my favorite on the Nintendo Entertainment System as far as Dragon Quest is concerned. Although locally, because of trademarks and copyright, it was known as Dragon Warrior here in the U.S. at the time. But now, of course, it's taken on its original title, which is great, and everything. And so we can start calling it what the Japanese do, only the literal translation of the Japanese, which is Dragon Quest. Anyways, so yeah. I played two. I've played 3 and 4, and I'm not a big fan of the first two. I find them too broken down and simplistic. Too lacking in features. But big fan of 3 and 4 and everything. I remember, when I got to the third chapter, I played in the shop for a long time in the in-game shop, and then it became even more convenient when you didn't even need to be present to sell items and everything in the latter fourth chapter. I think that was 4. If I'm thinking back properly, it has been a long time, friends. Kind viewer, it has really been a long time. But no, I'm a fan of this particular genre. I've been a fan. Studio Asano is currently my favorite studio in gaming. I even like the fact that they're starting to cater to the ARPG market, and they're starting to release it, despite the fact that I am not a fan of action RPGs. Now, I realize that puts me at odds with a lot of people and their opinions, but that's just me. I mean, it's not for me. You do you. I'm fine as long as there's enough room in the market for both of us. You be a fan of your games, I be a fan of mine. We can agree to disagree about that one. That's fine. I'm cool with you having your taste. But mine is in the turn-based direction and everything, and I'm not here to drama with anybody about it or anything, or get in a fight about which one's superior or any of that stuff. That's not really the point of this video. I'm looking at the news that generative AI and the RAM race and the race for random access memory that it's causing, and the spike is causing delays in the PlayStation 6, and I'm just thinking to myself, good. excellent news. Very welcome. See, because I don't want the PlayStation 6 to come out anytime soon. I mean, if it was delayed for the next 3 or 4 years, excellent. Kick the can down the road another 15, 5, 10 years. I don't care. And why I'm happy about it is that I bought the PlayStation 5. I'm thinking to myself, why the fuck did I spend a shell out the money that I spent on this thing? I should have put it in stock and bought something like, I don't know, Intel stock was cheap all of a sudden and everything. And or Apple, or bought, some of the big name players and everything, instead of wasting it on this piece of shit that doesn't have any exclusives on it anymore on this generation. I mean, I feel neglected by Sony. Sony has pivoted to, as I'm reading the news and I'm getting it about what their direction is that they seem to be hellbent on delivering this live service titles, and almost exclusively to the first person shooter genre within the United States, because that's where they see the money as being, and they don't see any of it coming from any other segment at all of the US market. It's like they don't even acknowledge the existence of people like myself who prefer turn-based RPGs. They don't there's no catering there at all. They don't care about us. It's like we're too small of a market segment for them to give a fuck about our niche. And so we have like one title on the damn thing, and it's not even an exclusive anymore and everything. And all of this crap has basically sent me flying into the arms of Nintendo and their column and everything. What really pisses me off royally about Sony and the PlayStation is that this is the same catastrophic mistake that came in from Nintendo. See, Nintendo's original sin, okay, that gave Sony a market opening in the first place during the N64 era. I forget which generation that was. Some of you gamers are so very Pacific, so let's look that up. N64 was... so that was the fifth generation era, as it's referred to, and everything. But yeah, during that era, Nintendo's mistake with the N64, a lot of people swear by that system. They love it. So much so that they've reminded me that there were at least a few RPGs available for the system that I really should check out and play, and that maybe I will, and everything, to give the system a fairer shake this time, and everything, and to give it a shot. But I'm not a fan of the N64 as of currently. It's probably... What's really strange about Nintendo is that they've got my least favorite console and my most at this point. The really... I am a fan of the DS and the 3DS, and the Switch is going to take the crown for my all-time favorite console from anybody at this point. I mean, it's just the gaming library on that system is so vast, and it's catered towards my segment of the market so much so that that our shelves between me and my sister are probably more full of Nintendo Switch games than any other system that we've ever had. And our in our history as gamers and everything, it's probably our largest gaming library at this point in collection between the two of us is the Nintendo Switch games, which is why the gaming library on the Switch has made it my favorite console ever of all time. I've got more happy memories with the damn thing than anything else, which is probably why I became an early adopter of the Switch 2, as well as wanting to hack it. Now, see, the thing is that I may have sort of infamously confessed to being a pirate and everything, and wares and all that and whatnot, but I have it's not as if I don't ever buy a game or contribute. I'm not a pure leech on the industry. It's just my justification for my own piracy and why I do what I do is not even a justification. It's just a explanation. Is not that I want to leech and steal every title. It's just that my appetite for games is larger than my budget. That's really why I pirate occasionally. I mean, if I stuck to only what I could afford, I wouldn't be able to play as much and wouldn't be able to buy as many games. So I supplement it with some crime. And that's just how I operate, and confession here, before you all and everything. So I definitely was interested in hacking the Switch too. Although the problem with that is just that it seems to be bolted down and secured so well that best of luck with that. That's not gonna happen. So yeah, not likely. Anyways, so yeah, that was a thing and everything, and that was why I did what I did. I bought in early because it was like it's important that it's paramount that it be on low firmware, and then maybe the first manual upgrade to play a game, then I'll install, and then everything else I reject. And keep it on version 2.0.0.20, basically, and keep it there and lock it down there and put a DNS filter and everything so that it can't communicate with Nintendo's servers anymore after that, so that it can't phone home about what's going on or anything at that point and such. But no, I mean, I we've bought enough games at this point for the Nintendo Switch that it's completely displaced the it's completely basically we've paid for the difference between what the system's power was, the cost of the system that was sold to us as a loss leader to sell the games itself to us, because I happen to know the business model of the Nintendo. Nintendo is the razors. It is metaphorically equivalent to the razors and blade model, where this is what is referred to when people that study this sort of thing. The razor and blade model is really simplified, but it's basically the razor company will sell you the razor itself at a loss, but then they'll upsell you and charge you a hefty chunk of money for the razors themselves, basically. So video games do this in the sense that they sell you the gaming hardware at a loss, and then they make the money back on the games themselves. Now, my own piracy is not so extensive that the company didn't make their money that they spent on me back. They made it back in spades. They're fine. I bought enough games and everything that Nintendo made their money back, so it's not. I feel, we're even on that one. They can rage at me about the additional content and everything and hate me all they want for it, but you made your money back, so you can't spite me too hard for that. I paid for enough from you that you're not operating at a loss because of me. Like I'm a legitimate enough of a customer that you're not beset by financial losses because of me. You made your money back. You sold me the console itself at a loss, and I pirated a few games because of the security issues that were like on the console and everything. I didn't pay for them. I'm sorry and everything, but you still made your money back. And then some. You made a profit. So like can you really complain that much and everything? And so the so that's really the truth of the matter, and everything, and so that's why I operate the way that I do. It's why the true justification, or the true explanation, at least, for why I do the things that I do. And I just it's to save money on here and there, or to not spend it, or to buy more, to play more games than I can afford to buy. So yeah. Anyways, so that's why I do what I do. And, I'm not averse to buying a game because I've had the experience of, like, for instance, seeing what happened with our copy of Lunar 2, Eternal Blue, which, we've got the original case and the instruction manual and everything, so that thing is worth a pretty penny, about $500 and everything, whereas for me it was $30 when I bought it. I've seen it balloon in value because Working Designs went under. The Lunar series became a classic that is spoken about, and diehard fans of it rant and rave about it. And if you're a fan of RPGs, you're probably more than aware of the Lunar series and everything. That originally only launched on the Sega CD, which was like a very, very, very exclusive segment of the market in gaming, where only a handful of Sega owners ever upgraded to the Sega CD. But I was part of that segment, and so I played the original Lunar and everything. I mean, God, we were such diehard Sega people that we literally had a Sega channel. We had access to it, the old Sega channel. Like, my dad got that and subscribed to it from the cable company. It was a great time. We had a great time with that and everything. So I've done Fantasy Star and everything, although for me, my entry point was 4, and so I'm trying to go back and play the earlier entries in the series, which is the same exact approach I'm taking on Entry and Odyssey right now. I'm at the first one. I mean, most people probably wouldn't recommend that you start there and everything on the first title, but that's fine. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm seeing how the series evolved from the start and everything back when it first came out, and I want to see where it goes from here. Anyways, so yeah, there are shipping delay. There are delays on the PlayStation 6, but hey, PlayStation 5 gamers, this is excellent news for us. God bless AI for the delays that it's causing and driving up RAM prices to the point in which Sony is delaying the PlayStation 6. You're just prolonging the lifespan of the PlayStation 5 so that Sony has no choice but to make more games for it. Hooray, hooray! This is all good news. Fuck, I have no intention of upgrading to the PlayStation 6. I'm done with Sony at this point. I'm disgusted. They seem to be making the exact same mistake Nintendo was making, during the 5th generation, which is they snuffed, they snuffed Square Enix, who wanted to develop games on CD and everything, and the developers wanted that, and they said, "Fuck you, we're releasing on cartridges." And everything, that's how we're going to do what we're going to do. And so what happened naturally is those developers went over to they moved in the direction of the PlayStation and everything, in Sony's direction. Well, now the market is snapping back in the other direction because Sony is making the very mistake that enabled them to win in the first place, which is they pissed off and neglected a very not a extremely large segment of the market, but large enough that the PlayStation 1, because of the gaming library, ended up kicking the snot out of the N64. It had, frankly, even though it had inferior graphics, it had the better gaming library, and so it was able to slaughter the N64, and that's just the truth of the matter. It managed to defeat it and everything during the 5th generation. I mean, that's just how things went down. The demand for the PlayStation 5, for the PlayStation 1 was much higher, and, if you asked anybody that was authoritative on the issue, they'd tell you the same thing. It won because for no other reason than the fact that it had a better gaming library. It had one of those wider, it catered to a wider segment of the market. More people were able to find games that they wanted to play on it, and so it won. It handily defeated the PlayStation, the N64, I mean, and now Sony's making the same mistake. They seem to only be interested in catering to first-person shooter gamers with shitware titles like Marathon and everything, and trying to capture that segment of the PC gamer market that is never going to swing into the console segment. So if Sony really wants this segment, they need to start releasing PC hardware and everything. Sony, you want to recapture your lost glory days and everything with a fucking when you were making all that hardware and everything for us, and you were the company of preference where we were basically going to you for pretty much every piece of technology that we wanted. Okay, then start spinning up your own fabs. Invest seriously in making your own. I'm talking about, the fabs. You know what I'm talking about. You need to start making your own GPUs and CPUs. I'm sure you would be a welcome player in that space. This is a market that really wants more competition. I mean, everybody is cheerleading the fact that Intel is basically offering, $100 segment, the 100 to higher, the $100 plus segment of the market for video cards. Everybody's excited about it. There's now a third player in the video card space, and everybody's rah about the Intel, cards. I mean, not everybody is enthusiastic about it, but the general reaction here on YouTube has been one of excitement. Now it's a 3-player game.